Hello everyone and welcome to another scrapbook workshop kit process video. What I'm going to do is just show you what is in this brand new scrapbooking kit. This has just been released May the 6th, and the exciting thing is that it is in the new annual catalogue. So this should be available for the next 12 months to order. And there are 4 new scrapbook workshop kits in the annual catalogue, which is really exciting. This was the one I wanted to get and do pretty much straight away. So I'm just going to quickly flip through this so you can see this kit will make 3 double page spreads following these instructions. But what I've been doing with the scrapbook workshop kits that Stampin' Up put out is do all the cutting as per their guide, and then I make up the pages and I might do a few little tweaks along the way. So these are the 3 double page spreads. It shows you exactly what you need to put things together. So the optional extra for this is linen thread, which is from Stampin' Up. And then of course you need your trimmer, your dimensionals, and your Stampin' Seal, which is adhesive. Now in the actual guide, it shows you how to cut all the pieces of paper. So basically where you've got the scissors here, that's your first cut, and it shows you the orientation of the paper. So what you want to make sure when you're doing this first cut, I'll just get this paper out and show you. This is the sticker sheet. You get your photo placeholders. You get all the card stock that you need to create the layouts. So there's some Very Vanilla here. I've actually flipped this one over. So you've got the creamy side, which is the true side of Very Vanilla. We now have two-tone cardstock in all of the Stampin' Up colours. So if you don't want to use the creamy side, you can turn it over and get a more subtle look to that. And this is the side that I am thinking I'm going to use. There's Old Olive, so that's two-toned as well. Misty Moonlight, that's another two-tone cardstock. Basic Beige, and you get 2 sheets of that, so you can see the difference here. So I love having all those options. The die cuts are absolutely fabulous. So I will be pushing everything out and getting everything organised, but I'll be doing that off camera. The specialty papers that you get with this one that you can't get any other way, they're actually one-sided. So I'm just going to flip back to here. I will get back to the orientation thing. I just have to find that piece of paper. But you can see this is the background for layout 3. You get 2 of these ones, which is the background for layout 1. And there's another sheet here. Oh, here we come to the actual pattern papers that come in this collection. Now you don't get the full range, you don't get all 12 sheets that you can get in the regular paper packet, and I did do a comparison of that on that live video that I did. So there's 3 different patterns for this way. I'll just get these in order. So in the actual paper packet you get 4 sheets of each of these, but in the scrapbook workshop kit you get 2 sheets of each of them and the supplemental special papers that you can't get any other way. I love this tree paper. I can see Christmas layouts with this paper. The reds and the greens I think will make great Christmas layouts. So when it comes to looking at the actual layouts, you can see the acorn paper is used in this orientation here. I may not use that paper. I might just use a larger piece of the green. I'm not too sure yet. So I'm just going to put this one aside, and then I'm going to go back to the cutting guide just to explain how this works. So there's the first cuts that I would make, and you can see it shows you the front and the back sides. They are all labelled 1A, 1E for this one, so you know that they are both going to go onto project 1, and that you are to cut straight down at 6 inches. But you really need to look at how the paper is orientated if you want to follow the actual patterns here as such. Now on these patterns here you can see they've mainly used the plaid or the gingham and not too much of the stripe, and the stripe does go in a horizontal fashion. So when you're doing the cuts for this, I'll just bring in my trimmer. You would need to make sure that you have your paper orientated this way so that when you do the cuts you get the direction correct for this. So 6 by 11 and 4.5 by 11. So I would do my cuts like this to start off with. And then I would turn this around, and I'm going to have my stripes going the right way because I checked that. And then I would make this 11 inches by cutting off the bottom section. just so that I know that I've got everything exactly orientated how it is meant to be in this cutting guide. So I've got my 2 pieces here that are going to go for layout 1, and I'll put them in a pile for layout 1. You can turn these over, you can label them, you can use post-it notes if you like. I generally just put them in piles for layout 1, 2, and 3 rather than necessarily labeling each one. So this is going to go in pile 1, and then I'm going to continue through with the rest of my cuts as per the directions in here. And I'm just going to flip through. I'm not going to do all the cutting on camera with you because my main aim for this video is to show you the completed layouts with my tweaks to them. And then I'm going to have some leftover paper that I'm going to extend this kit to make more than 3 double page spreads. So you can see you've got all your pattern papers here ready to cut. And they give you directions for the cardstock as well, because that will be for photo mats and other items as well. It shows you exactly what stickers and die cuts you need to use. And then there's a decreased opacity image here so that you can see where to place everything if you want to follow this exactly. So I'm going to go away, I'm going to do all the cutting, and then I'm going to assemble the pages, and I'm going to come back in and show you my completed pages. And then I'm also going to share with you the other pages. I'll probably get a double page spread. I'm not sure if I'll get 2 double page spreads, possibly, with what is left over from this kit. So I've got my 3 double page spreads made, and I'm just going to go through the slight variations that I made to this. I did keep to the cutting guide, and I love how this first double page spread has come together as well as the other 2. I think this is an absolutely fabulous kit, and I was going to wait to actually share this with you until I had worked with the paper pack and the sticker sheets, because I'm going to do a scrapbook guide with that one. But I can't wait to show you what I've created with this. For those of you who are just starting scrapbooking, and those of you who love to follow guides, the scrapbook workshop kits that are being put out by Stampin' Up! Are really easy to follow, and they have fabulous end results. So this one I absolutely love. I did make a mistake, and this little piece here I have in the green, and it's supposed to be in the brown, and it really doesn't matter that I've mixed that up. But what I've done here, because I was short that piece, I've put this one here to be exactly the same, and the chevrons, instead of being in this top left corner, I've brought over here to add that little bit of green to that. So that was my simple fix to this. Now when I adhere everything down, because I haven't got photos on here as of yet, I don't put all the adhesive on the pieces that are going over the top of the photos. So that will happen later. The other thing that I've done for all the pieces is inked the edges with early espresso. I love how that looks on these. It just gives a little bit more definition. And I have lightly put these photo placeholders here just with one little bit of tape runner, because I'm going to take that off and put my photos directly on here, because we have these very vanilla placements and my photos will be going directly on. These are cut a little bit larger than a standard photo size, so I don't need to trim my photos down at all for that. I love how they've done all of this cluster element here and adding the pieces of linen thread, even just having it behind this little title piece here. I think that works so well. So that's basically the only change that I did with this. I thought I might have used the stripe pattern rather than the plaid pattern on here, but I love the red with this. So I have kept this one pretty much exactly the same, except for the little mistake that I did with this one. So let's move on to layout 2, because I do want to get into creating an extra layout with you on camera, and I might be able to stretch it to 2 extra layouts. I'm going to show you what I've got left over as soon as I finish showing you my changes that I've done for the next 2 layouts. So this one here, layout 2, you can see straight away that I have changed things around. I didn't want the acorn paper on this layout because I really loved the trees and the green. So this is the tiny little acorns here, but I fell in love with this design. So I wanted to make sure that I had that for this double page spread, and it was an easy fix to do. Most of the time it was just turning a piece of paper over. But this is where I did alter my cuts just a little bit, and I'll just show you what I've done with that. So here's the cutting guide for the trees and the acorns. So what I have done is just change the orientation. So you can see here the tree pattern is running in a horizontal fashion. So you would cut this paper in your trimmer so that it was like this. I basically rotated it so I could have one long strip like this so that my trees were running in a vertical because that's how I wanted them. And then I was able to cut this piece here across the top. So I'm just going to lay this one down like that. So this would be my 12-inch piece of paper here. I did this first cut at 3 1/4 by 11 with my paper in my trimmer in this direction so that I could get this one across here, and this 2B piece I then cut because I was able to use that and keep the trees running in the same direction. Now I did change up the layout just a little bit. So instead of having all of this section on the right hand side here, I put it on the left side, and you can see I've done another flip with the papers. So the ones that are blue here, that were the blue sort of night sky papers, I have flipped those over because I really loved this wood grain style with the compass, the prints, the boot marks. I love how that looks. So I wanted to use that with my tree paper. And yes, it gives a little bit of a different look to this, but the cuts are still the same for the papers, and I've used the same elements that were designated for layout 2. I have just mixed them around a little bit. And for me, I just think this flows really well, having this section down here, my photo in this portion, and that leads across to the right page. So I'll just bring this up to camera so that you can see the trees is exactly the same. I have simply flipped this blue paper over to have this pattern, and instead of putting this journal circle on this side, I've built it up on this side over here just to build this up and create a cluster over on the right edge of this. But I have kept pretty much these pieces almost the same as the placements as what they've got on here. I have just moved them over to the left side, and of course that acorn paper is now the tree paper and the blue paper is now the footprint paper. So I really love how this one is looking. This has got its own white little paint splatter effect on here, and I really love that. The attention to detail in this paper here, I just had to use this side rather than the blue night sky paper. So that's the changes I've made for layout 2, and that's what's great about these scrapbook workshop kits. You can create a layout that you want with the double-sided paper with the patterns that you want to see. You don't have to follow it totally exactly, and I was thinking of changing the base layers here to white willow, but this is basic beige, and I actually love how this looks, and I have used the dark side of basic beige for this, and wherever there was the very vanilla, I used the light side of very vanilla. So layout 3 here is a simple flip. So when you look at this one, the actual orientation of this is supposed to be in this manner. Now, while there's nothing particularly wrong with that, when I was looking at this, I really wanted to have my heavyweight triangle on the left side here, and then have this other piece coming across this side. So all I've basically done for this one is just swap the 2 pages around from the left to the right page. I don't think there are any other changes from this. It's been a little while since I actually did this one, so I'm just walking myself through it and having a little look. I think I've kept it pretty much the same as the layouts were designed, except for this piece down here. So if you can see, we have Weekend Escape, the Nature Walk, and the Nature Walk element. Instead of having these strips and the Nature Walk element separated from the Weekend Escape, I have brought them all together so that they're all touching each other and connected. So I really liked how that sort of turned out, and I felt like this matched in with the other elements that are on these. These are all touching each other and they all live together really nicely. So I wanted to do that with this bottom piece down here. So now I'm going to show you what I have left over from this kit. So as I was making it, I was putting everything in this bag here. I'm just going to flip this over. So there are a few little things left over from this. Obviously, I'm going to have to bring in some more base pages, some full 12 by 12 sheets. But I have the other side of that triangle ready to use. And I think what I'm going to do is cut this down a little bit to do a little bit more framing. Oh, I've got a full sheet of this plaid paper here. So I think what I'm going to do as I'm going through all of this, just put this aside for the moment, is group these ones together. And for my other layout, I might use this striped side rather than using the plaid side. So I'm going to keep all of these pieces together, and then I've got those all together. So this is going to be a double page spread, and so is this one. So I'm going to get 2 extra double page layouts, so 4 extra layouts from this kit. All of the die cuts have been used. so I can discard those. I've got some placeholders left over because I stopped putting those on the page. I've got some very vanilla pieces left. I'll put those in this pile here, but I'm not worried if I don't particularly use these pieces up. I've also got some Nighted Navy here. I'm not sure which it's going to work better with, so I may not use that. I'm going to put that off to the right. And I do have some old olives, so I think these all work really well together. So this is what I do when I'm going through and sorting out my leftover pieces. I group them all together and work out what I think is going to work best. I kept every tiny little piece. I'm just going to put these off to the side. You can see I've got some offcut pieces here from the die cuts. It's another little bit of that tree. This is from one of the die cuts as well. And this was a die cut too. So I'm thinking that might go onto this page. And then I've got quite a few stickers left over, so I'll be able to make some titles out of these, having fun, or some little groupings of titles. What's this one? It's time for an adventure, happy day. I love these enamel cups. We use these sort of things when we go bush camping, so that's going to come in handy. I've got a banner here. I'll probably use the banner with this stripe paper. So I've got all of those as a resource. And to add to this, I'm going to bring in the Weekend Adventures stamp set and create some titles and some other little elements to put on these 2 double page spreads. And I think the other stamp set that I might bring in is Stripes and Dots. I think this is going to work quite well. You can see that they're quite large. They are cling stamps, but I think I can see them coming out from the edges of some photo placeholders and things like that. So what I'm going to do now is just take away all of this paper here, and I'm going to have a little play around with this one. What I might end up doing is cutting all my stickers out here and putting them in a little tray, and I'll do that off camera so that I can then bring them in and sort them out and sort of dry fit them as to where they're going to go within the layout. Now I'm going to reference back to this layout here because I really like how the basic beige worked with this one. So that's what I'm going to use as my base pages. I think I will keep with the dark side because I really did like how that looked. So here is layout 3. It is an exclusive print for this one, but I do like the darkness with this pattern paper here, and I think it works really well with the green. So I am just going to bring these pattern papers over onto this page, and straight away I know that I like this a lot better. So I'm going to get rid of the basic beige, and I think I'm going to see if I like the light side or the true side with this. So I have these pieces to play with, but I'm also thinking I might bring in some very vanilla sheets for this, because I do have a little bit of an idea of what I'm going to do with this triangle piece to make it stretch across 2 pages. So I could put my cardstock this way and have this piece here, or I could have the Very Vanilla as the base piece with just a small amount showing and put my piece this way. But the first thing I'm going to do before I make a decision on this is do some cuts with this triangle piece. So I am basically going to cut this piece in half so I can stretch it across 2 pages. Even though it would work quite well as one whole piece, I think it's going to work better if I do it this way. I might do another cut yet. Let me see how I go. So I could put one down in this corner and one down in this corner, and that sort of frames this out a little bit. But I'm also wondering if I want to do another cut and make this into 4 triangles on the corner. I'm going to try that with one of them. I can always put this back together again on the page, and people might not see the actual seam if I don't like what I've actually done with this. So the easiest way to do this is with a trimmer where you have a little guideline, or you'll know where it's going to cut. Come up from the flat edge rather than coming down from the pointy edge, because you don't want your trimmer blade to snag. So I would have this one and this one. I think I like how that's looking. I'm going to do the same thing here. Let's see how that looks. So then I'm going to play around with which triangle is going to go where. So this one has my footprints going up this way. This one has my footprints going across that way. So that's trying to look like it matches. And start fiddling around with this so that I get the footprints how I want them. Let me see. It's sort of like pass the parcel until I get the look that I want to do for this one. I think that looks better to have them so that they're not trying to look like they match too much. And then I'm going to think about bringing in this paper here. So I could tuck a piece like this so that it's partially under this triangle, and then replicate that a little bit on the right side. So I'm going to cut just a small amount of this one, probably around 2.5 inches. So that will build like this, and this will tuck. Maybe I'll go opposite on this side just for a little bit of variety. I can also bring this piece in just to add a little bit more of an effect, and bring that so that it comes down somewhat to build up this side to give it more weight. And then I'm thinking I'm going to do my mats in Old Olive. Or will I do them in French Vanilla? So now I'm just trying to work out if I like the look of having the Early Espresso as the heaviest piece here, or if I like the look of having the Very Vanilla at the top. I think I like the Very Vanilla at the top. I think it's going to be too dark if I do it all across this way, because there's no texture in this paper like there is with the exclusive paper that had the wood grain effect. So I'm going to cut down some pieces here and assemble this and work out how I'm going to do my placeholders. So if I go this route, I will do Old Olive as my photo holder mats. If I go this route, I would do the Very Vanilla as the photo mats. Or what I could do is gut out this back piece here of the Early Espresso and use those as the photo mats. So I'm going to do a quick little gut on this and work out if that's the way I'm going to go with my photo mats. And I'm going to adhere some of these pieces down. And I'm also going to ink the edges of all of these pieces. So I've got my brown tool, my Early Espresso ink, and I am just going to run across the edge of all of these pieces. So I'm just going to hold that up there so you can see. You do get a slight definition if you don't angle your tool too much. If you keep it on a fairly 90-degree angle to your piece of paper, you won't get as much ink coming through. And you can definitely do this with sponge daubers, or you can drag your piece of paper through the ink pad if you don't want to do that. This is actually the quickest way to do it, but I want a little bit of a grungy sort of look to this rather than a clean inked look to that. So I'll be back in a moment once I've assembled the foundation pieces for this, and then we'll get into the decorating, and you don't need to sit there and watch me ink all the edges of the pattern pieces here. I've inked up all my edges and the foundation pieces are all adhered. So you can see with this piece that was left over here, I have basically just cut this here by cutting 2.5 inches off the end. That piece is on this side, and this one measures, if I can find my ruler here, this one measures 5.5. So it's 5.5 by 8 3/4, and this one is 2.5 by 8 3/4. And this strip here is this leftover piece. So this one measures at 3/4 of an inch. And all I've done with that is tuck that underneath this triangle here and brought it out over the top. And I quite like how this gives the extra weight that's needed to the right page. I didn't want them to be both the same, and that's why I didn't cut this square piece directly in half. Now, when I did my cutting, I did gut out this section here of the Early Espresso, and that let me create some large photo mats. So I cheat a little bit. So if I measure this, it comes out at around 7 3/8 by 6 3/8 inches. But what I do is put my photo placeholders, or you can put your photos on here, and I just put them onto a larger sheet. So I attach them to the larger sheet of this. So basically I just put them up in the corner, and then I use my trimmer to trim it down. And that way I have an even side around most of this. It's a little bit bigger down here because I put 2 3x3 photos and I haven't butted them up against each other. So my 4x6 has a little bit more of a mat here. And that's fine because I've got all of these sticker elements here that I'm going to use. Plus I have the stamp sets that I showed you earlier as well. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. and I've made a grid of photos here with 3x4s. So both of these are sort of grids, and this one I'm going to tuck down into this section here. I like how these triangle pieces are giving areas to be able to do that. Now I've still got 2 strips of this paper that's left over from the cutting guide, and I don't want it to go to waste. So I am thinking that I might push this up just a little bit and bring this out a little bit more so it's closer to this edge here, so it's not covering up too much of the tree paper. I want to see part of that pattern there. And then I'm thinking I might use this paper here to line up to the edge and come across, and I'm going to cut it off so that it matches the edge of the paper here. And I've got this one here that I can then use on this side and having it come across like this. I'm quite liking how that's looking. So let's just tuck that under here for now so I get a little bit more of a visual as to how this is going to look before I actually cut anything away. It doesn't really matter to me that the height of this is higher, although maybe I will bump this one up a little bit. I'm thinking this is looking rather cute. I quite like having the additional pieces of this paper coming in. These are the 2 pieces that are left from the tree paper here, and I don't know if I'm going to use them. It'll be sort of like if I could tuck them in and around this sort of area here, but it just might be using them for the sake of using them. So I think I'm just going to take those away. Now for this layout, my photos are going to go on here. I'm going to put a flip flap on one of these so that I can do some journaling on the other side of the flip flap so that it will be a little bit hidden. And of course I need to ink the edges of these pattern pieces here to match in with the others. Now I'm going to bring in my sticker sheets. I actually have the borders as well because we only used one of these borders making the layouts as per the instructions. And you can see I have trimmed this away as well. So what that is, when you peel off one of the stickers in this particular sticker sheet, there was overprinting. So what I have done is just gone along the edge of these with my scissors. It was too hard to line it up with my trimmer because I'd already cut some of the stickers away. So I have these fine little pieces as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that on this layout or if I'm going to save those for the other layout that I'm going to do. So for me, this one's going to be all about a camping adventure. And around the fire, I'm bringing in a little bit of the blues here. And I've got another cup here. I can have family time, maybe coming out of this photo. I can create another little cluster here with happy day. And the reason why I'm fitting these now is because some I think I want to tuck underneath and some I want to put on top. And I am going to do what I did for the other pages, and I'm going to ink all the edges of these. I've already inked this family time because it was going to go on another one of the layouts, but I didn't actually put that on there. I have got this little footprint as well, and I'm thinking I'm going to grunge this up a little bit. So I'm just going to go over the top of this while it's still attached to the carrier sheet and just darken this up a little bit. I'm just finding the very vanilla colour is a little bit too bright. I think that's going to work a little bit better. Let me peel away the outside area. I do like the look of this. So you can change the colour of the stickers just a little bit. I think I'm going to do that with this one as well. Now I'm just using the ink that is left on my tool here from inking up all the edges. I just want to soften the brightness of this by adding a little bit of early espresso ink. And what I am going to do, and I'll just do this on camera with you, is just hold on to the backing sheet, and I'm going to go around the edges as well. And that way it's not quite as sticky to hold on to when you're going to ink up your stickers. If you want to ink the edges and you don't want them sticking to your fingers. Whoops. That's if you can keep hold of them. So you can just peel back the carrier sheet just a little bit. You can see I'm getting a bit of fluff on my layout here. I'm just going to blow that off because I do think I need to replace this, but I just keep using it because it's not actually broken and it's not really worn out. I've got one more edge to do. So that's just my little tip on how to ink up the edges of your stickers and keep it sort of sticky and adhesive and ready to put down on your page without actually removing the actual sticker sheet. So I'm just inking this one up, and I'm also going over the top of it just a little bit to blend it in with the rest of my layout here, because I don't really have any grey on this page yet. So that's just a quick inking up just to grunge it up a little bit, mute the solid colour somewhat. I may even end up cutting these mugs out. I'm not too sure if I'm going to leave them on these actual shapes that I've got here. So I'm going to keep doing that for all of these stickers. But you've got an idea of what you can do with the sticker just to alter it just a little bit to make it suit your layout a little bit more if you don't want the flatness of the actual colour for this, if you want to give it a little bit more life. So let's have a little look at what else I've got. Now I've got family time in the blue here, and I've got the blue down in this section as well. I'm thinking I might put group photo for this one here because I know what photos I'm going to put on that. I just can't share those with you online. This one here that's got the banner I'm going to save for my other layout. And I do have some other reds and things with this, and I'm thinking with that striped paper, this color is going to look really good as well. So maybe I will just pick out the little brown elements here and see if I can add a little bit more embellishments to this one. This one here is not sort of sitting. I'm not sure if it's the shape. What I think I might do is trim this one down a little bit, or I might actually cut around the happy day and make it a little bubble outline. I like that much better. I think it was pulling a lot of focus with the actual diamond sort of shape with it. And then I'm going to layer this up as well. I feel like I need to bring in a little bit of red on this side. So maybe I'll bring these hearts in as well. Now this one is a really bright red. So I'm going to do the same thing that I was doing before and alter the color of this just a little bit with the early espresso ink. Take away this overage part and I'll be able to ink up the areas. But that has just dulled that down just a little bit. It was too bright red before. The colour in this cup is more like cherry cobbler, and this was more like real red, which is a brighter red. So I think that that has worked a little bit better. So I'm going to adhere these pieces down and then show you the final result, and then we're going to... So I finished up on this layout and adhered all the pieces down. Now you might notice when it comes to the little pot and the cup here, I did trim these out and fussy cut them because I found that the scallop edge and then the other edge for this one that was around it, it was just a little bit distracting. So I wanted to have them as like standalone elements because I wanted to put the footprint piece down here. And I inked the edges as well. So one of the techniques for this workshop kit, because a lot of the scrapbooking kits do have a technique with them, was using the linen twine. So I have put some twine behind this grouping here, this one here, and I've got some on that little tag. And I was going to save the red elements for the next double page spread, but I just think using the mug here to match this one, I needed to bring in those two hearts. And you saw me ink that one up just to make it blend in a little bit more. And I quite like the pops of red, and I know that in one of my photos there's a red flannelette shirt, so that's going to go quite well I think on this layout. I love how this bonus layout has come together with these pieces. It was really good to be able to cut up that large triangle that was in layout 3 and just make a different sort of design rather than making another big triangle design. And I think these strips here just sort of connect everything together. So I'm really happy with how this has turned out. I'm just going to bring this up closer so you can see the distressing that I've done on these die cut and sticker elements. I think it just adds more texture to this rather than leaving them a flat color, which you can definitely do. This is just my personal preference for treating the elements within this workshop kit. So stretching it out to a bonus double page spread, I am going to come back later this week with the second double page spread for this because I think this video is getting a little bit long. So watch out for that if you'd like to see what else I create with this scrapbook workshop kit. Oh, and I meant to mention, I did stamp this taking the scenic route off camera, and it's a little bit distressed. I didn't get the perfect amount of ink coverage on all of it, but I quite like how it's a little bit of an ombre effect here. So that was from that same Weekend Adventures stamp set, Taking the Scenic Route. And when I come back with the other layout later in the week, I am planning on using the Adventure Starts here and things to do and places to see, and I am going to bring in the stripes and dots set as well with that one. So stay tuned for that. I will have links to everything that I have used today in the description below. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, happy crafting everyone, and bye for now.